I heard from the first speaker around, I'm not too sure what term he used, but I think we could call it environmental bottom lines, environmental measures. And what he portrayed to us was the fact that MOH had come out with certain bottom lines or measures, indicators, and he was suggesting they were very superficial. And he put up on a number of different graphs to illustrate that. I'm wondering, given the national policy statement, my understanding of that is that it's a guide, and that really here at the local level is where we decide what measures we want. And I'm just going back to that source and saying, yeah, that source is in Wellington. We've got Dirty Politics book out. We've got lobbyists in there. No doubt someone's got to MOH about what it should be that suited particular interests. So given what we've heard here tonight, what has influenced you in putting this strategy together around our environmental bottom lines here?
While we've got this national policy statement, it's really clear that in actual fact the decisions about what our water quality should be like and how we're defining that issue of maintaining are decisions for this community. They are local, our community needs to decide what state its water should be. And so that's something that for the Waipawa catchment, there's been a lot of discussion about the values of different parts of the catchment. It starts in the headwaters with very hilly terrain, we've got bush up there, we've got a whole mix of land uses, and then it comes down onto the flats. And so Jeff talked about before the different, using the national framework, it's different water management units, but we've looked really hard at what are the different values in those areas. And so Tairawhiti, for example, we mentioned that's an important area. We read that in submissions from you all the time. People swim there and people want to keep swimming there. And so clearly, when we talk about what's an acceptable standard for water in the Tairawhiti, it's that people can swim in it safely. It's not that you can just boat in it. So when looking at the kind of limits and this is all the terminology that we have to use, but when we're setting those things, we're very aware of what the actual values for our community, for our rivers are. And so in the draft that we put together, we've tried to reflect that, and one of the things that we're very, very keen to hear back from people about is, are we reflecting that right? Have we said, yes, it's really important to swim in these rivers, yes, these rivers are really important in ecosystem health, have we got those things right? Because they're the critical things to decide if we're going to keep our water quality good. And so that's why we've identified those two areas where we need to improve. We need to get our water quality better so they're safe for swimming all the time, not just some of the time.
So how do we connect with him?
I'm sure he'll not leave us alone.
By inviting me along here, this is probably the first council that I know of that's done that, suggests to me that they are wanting to be honest about it, because they could have just, told you a whole lot of whatever to make it sound good, but by having someone like me come along, I feel is a really good sign that they actually want to get it right.
The Freshwater Advisory Group has attempted to get together a plan based on talking to the community in the first instance, but that had to be a relatively small group. The draft plan is coming out early in September. You get to comment at that point, and then it gets to be a proposed plan. You get to comment at that point. So there is still plenty of time for a room full of people like you who are interested to start to make those kinds of comparisons, to say, are we doing enough? Is this what you value? So that you can recommend and submit to council what you think on the plan.
I'm very passionate about our awa, Te Arai. About 3 years ago, we had a bit of a flood that come through Te Arai, and it just about took our pā away. We talked to the council about it to see what they can do, and all they did was put willow stakes in the banks. Now I see just recently they've stuck some more willow banks along the banks on the other side of the main car bridge. Now can someone ask me, why can't we put native trees there? We wanted to put native trees there along our marae, but they said no. they said we can only put willow. Why willow? What's wrong with our native trees?
But willows are normally used in rivers
Stabilised.
because the roots do go under running water, but certainly natives do a much better long-term job.
As a ratepayer and as a person who lives here in this region, and you want our contribution and I say, never mind about swimming in it, pitch it to where the fishes will live in it.
You're completely right. However, I think that what Mike said is the best thing to do is not pollute our rivers. Let's not do that. With the Tairawhiti, we're in the position where it has got degraded. It's not a really healthy river. There are times when the nitrogen levels in it are quite high. There are times when the fecal pathogens in it are quite high. Those are not things that can be fixed really quickly. And I guess we recognise that we have a problem. We need to improve it, but it's not going to be something that can be done really quickly. So let's try one step at a time to make things better. We think that the first step of that is to make it in a state then we can swim in it. And hopefully the second step is that we have it at a state where we don't have times when the oxygen levels drop so low that things are going to die. But it's about the time frame, and it's about how much it will cost to restore the river. And I guess that's again, that's what we're seeking, that feedback. But it costs money. The river has been like that for actually as long as we've got water quality data for it, which is 35 years. So it's not a problem that was made overnight, and it's not a problem that can be solved overnight.
But I'm just coming back to the point, I pick up the paper again, and here's this, I think it's diesel or other things being poured into the wastewater system. So how does the council become more proactive around that, and how do, given the sustainable business, the Council for Sustainable Business, how do we get them more involved here and our businesses involved around that, so that, we've got a common value around making sure that we have got an environmentally sound region. I was here the other night on Tuesday, we had Parks and Reserves, and we had someone talking about bioregion. But I mean, if you're going to talk about bioregion for tourism purposes, you've got to bring it back into council policy so that environmentally you are a bioregion rather than just a brand as a bioregion.
So in June, other than 3 councillors, the council voted down a move to prioritise the upgrading of the wastewater piping and reticulation issue. So Larry and Amber and Meredith all voted for it being prioritised. The rest of the council voted against it, and I was wondering whether or not there's space for that to be reconsidered when you obviously have so many people who care very much about it.
The councillors who voted against it, as I understand the vote, voted that they wanted to see the finances of that project compared to all of the other projects. David's going to talk about things like floating wetlands. They've got a cost too. The project is in effect in pause. It's not rejected. It will be revisited as part of this 10-year planning process, and that vote would be put again.